Remember last year's amazing trip? That cute first birthday party? All those photos, all those memories can be freed from your phone with a Shutterfly photo book. Rediscover and share your favorite moments with those you love. You'll be amazed how easy it is to make a photo book with Shutterfly and enjoy it for years to come. Get 40% off orders over $29 with code POD40 at Shutterfly.com and make something that means something.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Welcome to episode 8 of the Flixwatcher podcast. I'm Kobi.
And I'm Helen. Joining us today are Rachel and Simon from the science fiction podcast Level Up Human, reviewing, unsurprisingly, the science fiction film Advantageous.
Guys, if you want to get in touch, join us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod. Come and visit us on our website, flixwatcher.tv, and go to iTunes. Subscribe to us, review, and share with your friends, because sharing is caring. So guys, just as a big reminder, all films on the podcast were available on Netflix at the time of recording. There will be bad language, there will be spoilers. I hope you enjoy it. See you later.
Welcome to this edition of Flixwatcher, and we are joined by Rachel and Simon from Level Up Human. Do you want to say hello, introduce yourselves, and tell us a little bit more about the podcast?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Simon. I'm the host and co-creator, along with
Rachel. Hello, I'm the producer.
And Level Up Human is, we're putting together a design spec for the next stage of human evolution, and we take suggestions from scientists, engineers, mathematicians, our audience, and comedians to try and find out how you would improve mankind. Yeah, so you can check us out. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, all the usual places. And also, please send us your suggestions to Level Up Human at Level Up Human on Twitter and leveluphuman.com online.
We'll link to definitely link to all those guys. It'll be good to see what people from Flixwatcher are suggesting for the next level of human evolution.
Yeah, it's
I'm intrigued. But what's kind of the weirdest one that you've had so far?
Well, the one that shocks me is because we've had to ban it, because every single audience we've asked, someone has wanted a tail.
Really?
Yeah, that's a very, very common thing.
But why was that? Because that's we evolved out of having a tail, so why would they want to get the tail back?
Well, it seems to be varied. I think for a start, like I'm kind of prehensile anything. You know, actually having something else to pick some stuff up, like another pair of hands, that'd be great. But just some people want to kind of something they can wag, show if they're happy.
Or put bangles on.
Yeah, accessories was one of the reasons listed. Sophie Meekings suggested that.
I've had glow-in-the-dark testicles.
Why did we have glow-in-the-dark testicles? I've forgotten why.
I'm going to take that as a soundbite, by the way. Why did we have glow-in-the-dark testicles?
I think Danielle Ward summed it up best when somebody else asked this on the episode by saying, you know when you can't find your penis.
Yeah, so not all their suggestions are serious, but we can go into some good science behind it. Yeah.
There was some really good stuff
comedy science
about
podcast.
growing a separate liver.
Oh.
Yes.
That one you could kind of take to the pub with you and feed that one.
Yes, and there is, in fact, some recent development in portable kidneys.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you don't have to hook
one.
yourself up to a dialysis machine for hours on end and be stationary. You can take a little portable kidney along with you to the pub and just put it on the pub table and so on. So we get into quite a lot about things that have actually happened, as well as the blue sky world of what would you like.
And we're here talking about today about Advantageous. So yes. Simon, you chose the film. So you can tell us why you chose it and give us a synopsis.
Well, did you know, first of all, one of the reasons I chose it was because I'd noticed the icon, the picture for it, many, many years ago. Like, it's got a very haunting image, a good cover. And I know you shouldn't judge a film by its cover, but I did. And as well as that, it's nerdy sci-fi, and I am a sci-fi snob. Like, it's one of those things I always have to watch myself, because one of my favorite things is to tell people why things they love are rubbish. And I have to really watch myself for that, because I was doing a talk it was recently the 60th anniversary of Star Trek, and I do science talks and things, so I was doing a talk at this event, And I had not expected the level of sincerity that there was in the room, because everybody there, like some of my older presenters who were doing talks at this, came in the uniforms that they actually own.
Oh, wow.
And were ready to go about this. They asked the panel at the end, who was your favourite Star Trek character? And for a laugh, I said Jar Jar Binks. And, rather than a laugh, there was an audible intake of breath. So being a snobby sci-fi lover, you see, this thing is, I think it's things like Star Wars is not sci-fi. It's space fantasy. Yeah,
I can see that.
It's taking the tropes, like it's basically Lord of the Rings in space.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, sure enough, like it, but don't pretend that science fiction, whereas this film was the most actual science fiction thing I could find. So I wanted to see, was it actually still good?
And tell us what happens.
Basically, there's a lady, she's getting a bit older, she's being sacked from her job because she's getting a bit older, she's the face of this company, and they offer her the chance for financial security, so she can take her kid, put him into a posh school, so she can keep her job, but this involves having a full body transplant, having effectively her mind downloaded and shoved into a new body. And then you follow the antics. Let's go from that.
Yeah.
The hijinks that follow. It's not comic.
I was going
say,
to say, what hijinks? What do you guys think about this film?
Well,
Would this... I know you talk about the next level or the next stage of human evolution, but could this be an actual stage in human scientific development? Could you see this happening?
There are people looking into it. That's a thing.
it's an interesting idea. The thing that upset me a bit about it was that they weren't choosing somebody who had something so obviously worth saving. She's a really good salesperson, and that's what they've transplanted a really good salesperson into the body of a younger person so that that person can carry on selling for the company she works for. And it's fine, but it's not a compelling character for me. It's like, I want to see somebody who is the person who has done 95% of the research into something which is going to save hundreds of thousands of lives, brain being translated into somebody else's body, because that's going to save humanity, potentially. Whereas this is just, I mean, maybe that's what's interesting about it, but this is just somebody, and all they're doing is they are allowing her to carry on doing her sales job, and it's just a bit like, well, okay.
See, funny, that didn't offend me in the least, because actually I thought that was part of the point. It's effectively showing the all-absorbing nature of capitalism and vanity.
Yeah,
I thought that was a deliberate choice, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it probably was.
And furthermore, also, actually, what is both a strength and a flaw from the sort of sci-fi viewpoint to this, to my mind, was that the other reason why they're not doing it to somebody who's important, the reason why they're effectively conning this woman into getting the treatment, is because it's not fully fledged yet. There are massive side effects. She has pain, she has memory loss, she has all those things. So it's not being done for the benefit of the person, it's to sell a product.
She's like a guinea pig.
She is a guinea pig.
Or a canary.
Yes.
She's a guinea pig on a stage, isn't she? Because she's now the beta product. And now she's selling herself as like, yeah, I've just done this. This is what I used to look like. Now I look like this. You guys can have this as well.
Yes.
But I mean, before we actually go to that, there's quite a bit of turmoil between herself and her daughter as to whether they should. She seems to try. I mean, it's set in the future, in a world where people, it seems like when they get to about 40-ish, people don't respect you, or they have less kind of options.
Well, particularly women as well.
Yeah.
So there are some very kind of specific images of women fishing and women lying on park benches in a way that you just don't see these days.
Right. And homeless children as well.
And homeless children, and they're kind of making the point that women particularly are completely shelved at a certain point.
Yeah.
It's quite stark.
It is.
The politics of this is great. I think that's one of the things that really nailed, actually. It's got a point.
I think the world of it is very fully and cleverly formed.
And believable.
And believable. And the near future is fascinating. It's quite bleak. They're in an urban setting, but they're quite lonely. She spends a lot of her time talking to bots, to the point where she at one point isn't talking to a bot, but she hasn't really noticed that it is a person. But she's probably so used to talking to like AIs that she's just kind of like she's barking orders at this guy, and he's just like, he starts trying to chat her up in a slightly... There's a slightly weird thing where she just wants to know who has put... She's applying for jobs, and somebody has filed a counter reference. So somebody has said, this is not a good person to have on your team. And she's talking to this guy going, well, who did that and why? And he goes, do you want me to tell you my star sign as well? And she's like, what? Who are you? What is going on? But she thought she was talking to a robot.
You don't think she was talking to a robot?
Well, or maybe she still was, and that's never resolved, is it?
Yeah, I thought she
I
was.
mean, Siri can be pretty cheeky.
Yeah, I thought that was it. I thought that was the idea.
Maybe it is.
This is a disarming...
Yeah, I
the
never
things that
quite
really-
got to the end of that.
I thought it really nailed the idea of corporate surveillance as well. Like, she's being spied on by her employers.
Yeah.
Like, there's drones used in this. And again, it's the kind of stuff which I find remarkably believable. To my mind, that's the bit that it nailed, was it got...
And really rubbish kind of 3D holographic Skype calls, which
Yes.
you can totally imagine existing quite soon.
Every time I see that in a film, I just think, just put a phone on. Because it doesn't look good in the cinema. It doesn't look good on the film anyway. So and there's no benefit from seeing that person, apart from the fact that you can kind of tell that this, because there's a few kind of plot points whereby she was talking to her boss, who was effectively firing her, and you could tell that he was looking at someone else in the room as if to try and say, look, I've tried to help you, but I can't really help you because my boss is here looking at me saying I've got to fire you.
Yeah.
And then that kind of helps kind of perpetuate the story a bit, because she's kind of boxed into a corner. And when you're talking about when she goes to try and get other jobs, all of her claims, all of her references don't match up. So she's effectively got no options, even though she's an intelligent, educated, previously wealthy and successful person. All of a sudden she's got the rug pulled from out of her feet.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I got here from talking about holograms. I don't think you need holograms.
Maybe that's maybe it's a deliberate thing. I was wondering if there was that thing of alienation through technology.
Right.
That was there was parts where it reminded me a lot of Black Mirror in many ways, and this is a bit like Black Mirror light, and perhaps a little bit preachier. But what it was trying to preach, I think, was quite good. I think this was actually pretty damn wholesome in many ways.
So why you say Black Mirror light? Because I get the analogy, but why do you think it didn't have the heft or the weight or the bite?
Because I don't
that an
think
episode
it
of Black Mirror
wanted
would
it to.
do?
Because that's the thing, is Black Mirror is in your face. I mean, like, come on, there's one where the Prime Minister gets on with a pig. There's death, there's destruction, there's all those things. It's Black Mirror is actually probably taking a lot from the heritage of the Twilight Zone and the like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Black Mirror is a horror show, would you say, in some ways? Think of like White Bear and a couple of the ones.
Well, and it's quite a heavy satire as well, whereas this is a lot more gentle and a bit arty.
Yeah, gentle, arty, and also like it. So Black Mirror is about our relationship with technology. I think ultimately this is still about our relationship with each other. This is still a kind of a little bit kitchen sinkish in terms of the relationship with the kids. Like when I'm talking about being a sort of sci-fi snob and being a geek, the one thing that actually perhaps did disappoint me about this, and this is a general trope again of whole Hollywood, so I'm very seldom satisfied. That's what really this boils down to. I'm picky when it comes to this. Is that it does suffer from the prototype problem, which is people go, oh, this is going to be horrific and strange and scary. And of course it is, because it's the first one. You'd love to see what the sequel is whenever everybody's got this technology.
Yeah.
If this is worse. So yeah, this idea that you can swap bodies, like the thing that's missing out is that's ultimately a way to eternal life, and a way of stopping yourself getting Alzheimer's, and a way of stopping yourself.
Which Simon thinks is a worthy thing to pursue, incidentally.
Yeah, so I love
Simon
that.
is very pro eternal life. I think he's absolutely bonkers for that.
Yeah.
But that is something we disagree
And
on.
I will dance in your grave because I'll be living forever. So hi.
Well, you're very welcome to. I don't want to be out of the grave. I'll be happily in it.
Having a rest.
Alive
But
forever in someone else's body.
I agree with you that there is...
We're going to have to come back to that, but yeah.
No, go answer that.
Alive in someone else's body.
Yeah.
Sure, if it's your
So-
mind, whose body is it?
So you'd be quite happy to be, if you were given eternal life, you can, this body is going to be yours. You'd
I
kind
think,
of take that.
Well, yeah, again, if it's that thing of down to choice. So this is again one of the things that I think is always missed in a lot of sci-fi, is because let's be honest, the reason why sci-fi goes all dystopia is because it's interesting. Like nobody says, oh, there's this new technology and everything's all right. No one's ever stood up and said, you know what, I'm really ambivalent about. There's no neutrality in sci-fi. So if it's come to this thing of I can choose my own body and live healthily, I see all that as a question of liberty. Like, why not? Why would I not want technology in ways where I can have choice? So to my mind, the thing that this maybe gets wrong is it skips ahead any of those philosophical questions. It misses some of the hefty philosophical arguments of what does it mean to be human, by instead focusing on the fact that switching body has side effects. So the dice are loaded against her because she has to take drugs, she's got memory problems, she's got headaches, she's got collapsing. The horror is added by the circumstance rather than actually dealing with the philosophical idea of what is it like to change your appearance, to change your life at will.
But also, my main problem with this film is it doesn't do what I wanted it to do.
What did you want it to do?
I was interested in her having a new body, but her own mind. What this film does is it's like having a computer which you've given all of the photos off your iPhone, and that computer then goes on to be you. It's like the computer doesn't know anything. It's got different, like this person has different, she's got a different personality from the original character. It's not the original character's mind in a new body that looks different. It is a person who has some of her memories. And that's not actually the same thing. It's not interesting. It's like someone giving me all of your memories of your life and going, right, you are now Simon, go into the world. And I will go into the world going, well, this doesn't make any sense.
No, okay, so the thing which is being missed there, because actually that is the cool philosophical question, which maybe it doesn't fully deal with. Because actually you could make the argument that if you were to have all my memories, you are me. Because the brain,
you could make
the
that
architecture
argument,
and the
but
shape
you
of the
would
brain
absolutely not be correct.
Why is that?
Because memories do not create someone's personality.
Really? What do you think does create personality then?
Circumstances of upbringing. What your parents are like.
Is that memory?
Well, no, it's not memory. It's how
it might not be conscious
it's how
memory.
it's
but can you think
the
of better
funnel
words for
through
this?
which you filter everything that's happened to you.
You could
So
make
something happens to me and I'm happy about it. Something happens to someone else and it makes them absolutely
So you mean
insanely
experience
angry.
changes? Because that's what some people would call memory. Some people. This is the interesting discussion.
Here's the idea. So say I go through my whole life being raised by my family, going through my experience of life.
Yeah.
With all my memories.
And that
right?
shapes your brain.
And that shapes the way that I see things. And then all of my memories are removed and somebody else's are put in. I'm still going to see the world in that same way.
Okay.
I'm going to filter my memories in a different way. I'm going to see them through a different lens.
And
I'm not going to be the same person. And that's what this is about.
I don't know if I agree or disagree, actually, because I think you're taking the big assumption there that those are different things, whereas I think they might be the same. Because actually, it's one of the things that they don't really go into is actually what is memory, how is memory processed.
No, they don't.
And if we're going by what science understands memory to be, again, even then it gets difficult in terms of what they are, but it's got something to do with the interconnectedness of different sets of neurons. So if this stuff is all coded, so if for instance, it was possible to clone your brain and put it into a computer, there's no reason to think that it wouldn't be identical. The trouble you really get into here, and something which again is completely glossed over and missed in nearly all sci-fi, is what you call Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which means that the act of observation alters the observed. Mm-hmm. So it could well be that having the process of recording a brain alters the brain. Having said that, I think actually it could well be that I have an imperfect memory anyway. We all do. And I have constant brain damage, because we all do. And yet I still think I am the same person. I think that the best trick that the mind ever pulls is in making us think that we exist at all. So actually, the real question to my mind is how much do you need to be the same? Like, you probably don't need 100% copying to effectively be the same.
Because the thing about this film is it doesn't actually go into these kind of depths that much.
But it gets you thinking about them, and it gets you talking about this.
That's what I'm saying. This discussion you two, myself and Helen kind of took a step back because it's quite interesting seeing. No, of course. It's quite interesting to see how kind of into it you were. But kind of
from a cinema point of view, it raises a lot of things but doesn't really explain them. No,
it doesn't really answer because it doesn't go into that kind of depth. I think there could have been a shortening of the kind of, oh, should I do this, should I not? And that kind of dragged on a bit in the film. Mm. And then when it came to the kind of the new body rejecting the memories or trying to merge the memories together, I don't think that was done in a way that's kind of emotive. And when she was choosing the new body that she's going to choose, I don't think that was an interesting scene particularly. It was just kind of looking at an iPad going, yeah, no. I would have thought there'd be a bit more kind of thought and a bit more heft.
Well, exactly.
Those
so
kind
she
of
was
things.
looking at pictures, choosing pictures from the point of view of the observer of the film, the viewer, the audience. And yet actually she's not just choosing pictures. She's choosing a person who will be given some of her memories. And they could have dealt with this in a completely different way. They could have had her absolute, complete, total personality in a new body, and then see how the daughter deals with that. And how everyone else deals with that. And that raises some more interesting questions, in a sense, for me, than what they did.
Yeah, so actually we're effectively having the same problem, which is the prototype problem. It's the thing that it's different than asking, okay, if this could happen, what would the world be like? Because it's saying that this can't happen because this is the rubbish version of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so in that way I agree, but also I don't think they were trying to... No, maybe you're right. No, I agree. Yeah, it's the prototype problem. I agree with you.
There's other things that were perhaps interesting. So if we're looking... Because I think there's lots of lovely, tiny little neat parallels. So for a start, the fact that the future is still rubbish for women and the way that they talk about it is great. The thing you're talking about, them sort of scrolling through bodies, reminds me so much of internet dating. Like it's effectively...
Tinder thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's turning people into shopping. And that's effectively what is happening here as well. The corporate surveillance, there's lots of nice little, very light touches. Now, having said that, I still had a moment halfway through where I was sort of screaming, oh, just kill somebody, please. Oh, sci-fi it up a little bit. Can you make it a bit more dramatic?
Can we not
like
just have
Black
a shark fly through the air?
Well, there was points where I wished, yes, they could make it more actiony. And I again can see why they didn't, because, again, the CGI is pretty rubbish. It's so bad, it's like Stargate kind of thing.
Why do you bother?
It really lets it down.
Yeah.
I mean, the future that they managed to create is very believable until, for no reason whatsoever, a crap spaceship crashes into somewhere, and then it kind of brings it down quite quickly to go, oh, this isn't quite the stylish
I
film.
think that's just a drone, though, isn't it? Isn't that's the equivalent of somebody having an Amazon parcel delivered by drone, and the thing just smashes into a building, and the kids look up and go, ugh. And I thought that was...
But is the point
I can see that happening in my lifetime, just being like, oh, there goes somebody's fucking contact lenses into a building.
There's another one, so I just was on it, I remembered. Like, 'cause when she was scrolling through taking her options, she goes from being a Oriental descent person to a white person. Like, there's a racial quality here as well. This is light touching on many societal ethical issues and exploring them in a way of actually what's kind of a believable future. That's, again, the kind of capitalism winning thing. If you compared that to Bollywood stars lightening their skin and the like. The fact that she's being a salesperson, it's the cynicalness of capitalism is shown, but in a very subtle way, in ways that you don't really notice necessarily, but again, they're there.
Helen?
I like its ambition and all the topics that you've mentioned, the issues with women kind of being pushed aside in society is great, but I kind of felt just having maybe a woman lie in the street or a woman crying, it doesn't really explore it fully enough. There's probably too many things that it's kind of nibbling at, and it never really takes something and kind of really explores it, or kind of just takes one thing. And I felt it was always kind of like on one level throughout the whole way through. And you're right, nothing really particularly exciting happens in it. So there's no real high points. And it's kind of a little bit dull. And also there was one bit in it where the mother says to her daughter, having you is the happiest I've ever been. And there's just no emotion or happiness. And it was just, that could have been like the one time in the entire film when they kind of are actually human beings. And, if she could have hugged her, or there would have been some warmth, or you'd actually feel like she actually meant it. And I don't know.
Well, you kind of got the rejection of the memories by the body that she's chosen as well, because there's a point where she starts talking to her daughter, referencing your mother as a different person. So it's like the whole thing has really broken down at that point, and it's not even what it was set out to be in the first place, which again is like, okay, but that is, it's not exploring what it says it's going to explore. It's exploring the fact that what it wanted to explore doesn't work yet. So it is like, fast forward 200 years, make that film.
But it was still because I'm entirely with it. Funny, Kobi, you might know the stats on this, because what I'd love to know is the way we were talking about here, Helen. This is Black Mirror light, as we're saying. And with it being Black Mirror light, I've actually reckon it was probably made cheaper than many Black Mirrors. Like, there was no big stars in this. The CGI was shoddy. This is an indie flick, isn't it?
Well, the main
So,
most recognizable person is the kind of evil director boss lady is kind of puppet mastering the main lady into the role of the new brain transfer type thing. I can't remember what her name is.
Jennifer Eller.
Yeah.
Who's off of Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, there you
For
go.
UK listeners.
Yes. So it's a very low budget. So that's why when Helen was saying about the spaceship, you don't need to expressively say, yes, we're in the future, just have a look, there's a spaceship crashing into something to show.
That was a bad choice.
I think things like that you just don't need, because why bother? That's taking money away from it.
They've set it up quite well, and it's very clear that it's in a not too distant future, but it's still in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with yourself. I think Black Mirror Light is a perfect kind of phrase for it, because there's just no emotion about anything there. The relationship between the mother and the daughter, it's quite nice. They're playing that French song, which I learnt at school. I think it's a French Christmas song right at the start of the film.
On the piano,
yeah. So that was probably the nicest touch, and you see them. I think they play it at the end again on the piano, but there's no kind of. She just didn't seem.
You don't really feel for any of the characters.
And when she goes back and tries to get some money from the girl's father, in that scene with Ken Jeong. Actually, Ken Jeong's probably the most recognizable person. He's in a lot. He was in Hangover, for example, and he's in a lot of American sitcoms. Really funny guy, really cool guy. That scene in the pub where she's trying to like, this is a last ditch attempt to not have to do this thing, just was kind of fell flat. Really, there's just no kind of there was no bite at all.
Yeah, there's not much drama to the drama.
No,
of it, actually,
I think it's not brilliantly written.
It's got great ideas.
Yeah.
Great ideas, not great dialogue.
But again, it's probably. Do you know what I was saying again about this is the ridiculous sci-fi snob thing? That's the problem with actually most good sci-fi. It's bad drama.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of getting that mix is hard, and I can count in one hand the sci-fi films that I do love, but I thought this was for something that is cheap and something. I think it had real heart. And it was trying to say something, and trying to say quite a lot of things. And maybe if it was a bigger budget, it wouldn't have been allowed to. Actually, that's possible as well.
I guess kind of the bigger budget version of this is sort of the film The Island with Scarlett Johansson and
Ewan McGregor.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It's basically where they're on this island, and there's some kind of prize where you get to leave the island, and you go on like a magical cruise, and basically what actually happens is it's not that. They're basically been farmed by people in the real world, so that should they get cancer or anything, they can then get the organs that have been cloned.
Yeah, okay. There's a couple of films like that.
They have certain memories from that person implanted in them, and it's kind of a conflict thing. But basically, when they leave the island, they're basically being harvested for replacement. So, for example, if you're in a car accident and you need a new body, that's what you're for. So that was when I was watching this, I kind of thought about that, which is obviously done on a massive budget, quite ridiculous and fantastic, but there is kind of a bit of emotion in that, and it's very different because they're completely different films, but they're kind of getting at the same thing, but they're done in different ways. So it was kind of interesting in my viewing experience anyway, just sort of compare the two.
Do you think it actually? I don't think it needed to have any kind of budget to it, because I think if the script was tighter and how they told it was tighter, then that would have made for a better film. I don't think they actually needed more money.
This does not need more money.
No.
It needs some extras, because the idea of urban landscape is just incredibly bleak, and there's a point where she buys an hour in a kind of isolation chamber, and you just think, well, how is this different from being in your flat? there's just nobody around in this film in a weird way, where you think, well, the only way that The only way urban life is going to go is more busy, not less busy. Anyway, but
There
my main
was a
argument...
slight hint that they might have been in, what do you call it?
Singapore.
No, like, well, yeah,
colony
actually,
or
it seems
something.
to be somewhere
Or
like
Canary
Hong Kong,
Wharf,
like
or-
a kind
yeah,
of town.
yeah.
But there was also a hit. There was like a gated community, which might be part of it.
Yeah. Okay,
so the kind of
but my
isolation again because of technology.
My problem with this film, apart from the fact that it's got the prototype problem, which I think actually you've nailed the problem there. The other problem is that the stories are too linear. The agenda of the main character is, I need to make money so I can send my daughter to a posh school. The obstacles she comes up against are financial. She has to make a decision to do with this, do this thing in order to make money. It's like that's a very, very linear story. Can I have money from this person? No. Can I have money from this person? No. What do I do? Oh, maybe I do this. The daughter doesn't have an agenda apart from being that tiger-mommed kid. To use a passive verb that doesn't exist. There's a backstory that's interesting about the cousin, Lily, and an affair that the mum had with, but there's nothing happening there. So there isn't anything there. It's just,
it's
you go, oh,
interesting.
that's an interesting backstory. Nothing ever comes of it.
Apart from after she has done the transplant, they call her up and say, "Yeah, we'll give you some money."
Yeah,
But
so
then
they
it's
come on
too
board
late.
in the end, and then the guy who is her direct line manager at her business, she's had some affair with, still not very interesting though.
No.
So like I want some kind of, I'm not a screenwriter and I don't know how this works, but like there's a lovely thing in a TV series I've been watching recently, Jonathan Norrell and Mr. Strange. I don't know
wow.
whether you've seen that.
Yeah,
But it's about a magician who cannot help but perform these incredible wizardry acts of magic which do these insane things, and he's trying to be good but he can't, and it's like you're kind of like, oh, I see what you're doing, you're trying to do one thing, but because you're so powerful you're doing another thing, and then you have to work around it. There is nothing going on in this film. It's just, I need money for this, can I have it? No. Can I have it? Maybe I do this, okay, now I do it. It doesn't work very well at the end. It's just like, I don't care.
know if I'm going to agree with that because there is a reason why she had an affair with the fella, because they have to give the fella a reason to give her. Sorry, so she had an affair at some point or something like that, some kind of backstory with her boss. And the reason why that is made implicit is because he advises her not to undergo the treatment and tells her what the side effects are. So it means that we knew that she went into this with her eyes open. She wasn't going into it passively. So
Okay.
the whole reason for that contact was entirely that, I think. But also to think that it's only the financial misses all the politics of this. The fact that
There
this
is politics in it, but in terms of watching, it's like, it doesn't make for a compelling film.
Oh yeah, no, there I'm
You know
with
what
you.
I mean?
Actually, that's the thing.
So
Yeah,
that's
because
my-
that's a big problem with this. It's still
only-
dull, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's no,
Yeah.
I mean, with the consequence of her not having this money is basically the kid doesn't get to go to
A private
the school. And
yeah.
there's no real, we don't really see like kind of a dark side, there isn't that, people living under the street, and if you don't get into this school, you're going to have to like eat rats
Yeah,
in the
there's
sewers.
So
one kid
There's
in a
one
bush.
kid in
Yeah.
the bush,
Yeah,
which I think
and-
again was...
It's
Where
not
did
the
that
end of
come
the
from?
world.
That was weird.
There's never any real danger that she's not going to get another job or she's not going to find. There's never any. This is what's going to happen, and there's no danger, and it's.
That's true, actually. So you wanted like the underground in Demolition Man.
That's exactly what I wanted.
So-
yes.
Yeah, well, some actual kind of, really
Danger
bad
or
shit that can happen.
or,
As opposed to
there's
just,
maybe like another. The city's in half, and they're being moved into
Yeah.
the dangerous
because what
half
we
or
do
something.
see in terms of an idea of what could happen in the worst case scenario is a lady very happily fishing and a lady dressed fairly well asleep on a bench, and it's like, okay, I see what you're doing here and saying about women not getting jobs beyond a certain age, but they don't look that, they're not starving to death.
Maybe that's where it did need the budget, was to show the dark side better. I say
Yes.
it's like they never left. There's insinuations throughout that they're in a gated community of some kind, but they never show you the outside well enough. I'll give it that.
So I think part of the problem is that how can you emote with someone? I guess we don't know what the public school system's like there. You don't know if it's a hellhole, and so if the fact that this kid can't get into
Well-
a school is that because in here right now, if you can't afford to send your kids to a private school, then it's not that bad. It's not that
Yeah.
much
It's
of a
not the
problem
end of the world.
She's
because
this kind of uber...
this girl seems very intelligent. And with a mum behind her who wants her to do well,
Yeah.
there's every chance that she will actually do quite well in her life with that kind of setup, even though she's a single parent. But the fact that, oh no, she can't get enough money to send a daughter to a private school means that I have to change my body completely, and that's a horrible life to live. That seems like I would never. That's a ridiculous decision. So again, that's kind of sets you away from the actual conundrum that she seems to be facing.
And also, once she's obviously paid the money towards the school, there's no kind of planning for the future.
Yeah.
So if she's done this thing, and presumably the money she gets is for that, and then...
No, she also gets to keep her job. So she was being sacked. She's being kept as this new person. So it is an ongoing thing. It's not... Okay. I pay more attention than you guys. Is that what this is?
Yeah, I think...
No, that's true, but it just, doesn't seem like a...
It's just not got much to it. That's the problem. It's like
because of the side effects, though, because she's not this great, she's fairly ill-looking and has to take constant medication. She's not a great advert for that anyway. So would they keep paying her? There's a sign again that it worked, because you see lots and lots of people being, again, nearly all women.
Well, and she's making some solid presentations to a bunch of people about how great it is, and she's lying, and she's taking these shots every 2 hours, which she has to do and everything. But it's like ultimately the peril of it is not huge.
Well, the closest thing to peril is that she's losing herself. That this is no longer the same person. Like the peril is actually that effectively it kind of unveils. It sort of reveal. Spoiler alert! It's not a great reveal because it's revealing that the original body dies, the original brain dies, and that the copy is not the same. So again, the reveal is the prototype problem. But
yeah.
If you're gonna have I'm thinking because again we're talking about like you're saying the closest thing you can imagine to this is the island. The closest thing I can think to is do you know the original Ghost in the Shell movie?
The manga film.
Yeah, like I really love that again because I told you I'm a sci-fi snob when it comes to these things, but that's something which explores the idea of memory transplant because they got brain hackers in that. So they give people motives for murder by giving them memories.
See? Interesting.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I would say that is a better movie and does some of the sort of philosophy of this one better. This is very light touch, but there was something about it. I enjoyed it. Like I still did. Yeah, I did get to a point where I was wishing for mayhem and death, and a budget and a giant robot to kill something. But I was swept along by it.
It's a setup and a scene setting thing for a thing that is interesting, but it isn't interesting.
Yeah.
It kind of it sets it all up in quite a good way, and then the actual characterization and dialogue and plot kind of just
falls by the wayside, or never reaches the wayside.
People have not they haven't crunched it enough. Yeah. Like they've just gone, oh, maybe this could happen, and then this, and you're like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. No, it's not good enough. We've got to really make sure that there's stuff going on.
Do you think maybe they've just tried to play it a little bit cool and tried to keep it, kind of ambiguous and sort of, this could happen, but we really want you to think about what if this could happen.
Yes.
And it's intentionally been left.
But then you have to ask, why has a film been made? It's like this is a realistic story of something which could happen in about 250 years, maybe. But it's not the film to make. It's like, it's one thing that could happen, but it's not the film to make. The film to make is the one that happens when they've sorted it out with the interesting person, or the film to make is one by somebody who is absolutely obsessed with the kind of like detritus of capitalism, like somebody who's obsessed with shopping, buys everything, has no soul. She's quite reasonable. She's a real tiger mom, and that is the only kind of... That is her character. There is nothing else to her character apart from that she wants her kid to go to the best school. And you kind of think, well, okay, but what else is she into? We don't know. We've got no idea. So she wants her kid to go to a good school. Okay, I don't particularly like that protagonist. If that's her character, that's not compelling me to root for her.
No.
The kid is just a product of that. And has no, she's quite depressed. And you're like, yeah, well, you would be. I mean, she's being forced through all this stuff, and she's really kind of being, like her life is being dictated by her mum.
She doesn't really have much fun, the kid.
She hasn't got...
There's no fun in the future for children, apparently.
I got a theory, actually, that's just occurred to me. I think maybe its mistake was it tried to make itself believable by being bland.
Is that a thing? Believable
That's a quote for
bland.
the poster.
Yeah, I think so.
Believably bland.
Yeah.
Being bland.
Because the way...
Well, then they achieve that.
Yeah, but I think that's a mistake. Like, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah, it's not. It's
They
not an
achieve that,
aspirational
and it
thing, is
doesn't
it?
make it an enjoyable film.
You can't aspire to that kind of thing. I aspire for blandness. I think we should step to the scores, guys. I think we want to get to the nub of this. What?
Can I just one more thing?
Yes.
Right, just imagine that The Matrix was made by these people.
Oh, this would never have been a good
Okay,
film.
so Neo goes to work, meets someone at work, has a conversation by a water cooler, talks about how he really wants to buy a new flat and move to a new area and how he's got a parking ticket. Right?
I'm there.
That's all happening to Neo in this film made by these people. And then somehow he notices something that's wrong in his workplace because a cat walks past his desk twice. Why is there a cat in his workplace? We don't know. Anyway, but then he somehow manages to bust out of the Matrix and discovers that he's a body in a pod. And then he goes, oh. And he looks at the camera and goes, oh, this is all, look, it's not happening at all. Nothing was. And then it's the end. That's the Matrix made by these people. It's like, it's not interesting. There's no characters, nothing happens. Yes, it's believably bland. That is not an aspiration for a filmmaker,
So,
in my view.
so the Matrix made by these people is he discovers he's in the Matrix.
He discovers he's in the Matrix,
that's it.
and he wakes up and discovers that everyone else is also in the Matrix.
It's a very
But
good
there are
analogy.
cats in that future. There's no animals in this future. Is there animals?
I don't know.
Where are all the animals?
I don't know.
Actually, I think the thing you've really hit on there is that they're basically, The Matrix and this are both films which wish they were Ghost in the Shell.
Well, maybe. But I mean, like, right, you don't need Morpheus in the Matrix.
You don't need most
You
of the
don't need
Matrix.
any of them, in fact. You just need Neo. You need a person as a protagonist.
Okay, Craig, if you're going to
And
start
that's
picking
how
apart
they've
the
made
Matrix,
this film.
that's a whole other podcast.
Well,
And
no,
the problem
but
with the
I'm
Matrix
trying
is that
to
you
point
don't
out
need
that
the
the
Matrix,
Matrix
and you
is-
don't
but-
need
But the
human
Matrix
brains
is
for batteries
compelling
and-
and interesting and fascinating. And this film is none of those things.
No, the Matrix thinks it's cleverer than it is. This thinks it's as clever as it is. It's just not that interesting.
Should we get to the? Let's get to the scores.
Yeah. Before I stop making any more analogies.
Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
So Simon, this is your film. You're going to take the lead on the scoring. Recommendability score.
I'd give it a 3, because actually the thing is that I wouldn't recommend it to everybody, but the people I know who would like this, I think, would really like it.
Okay.
And yeah, I'd stick with that.
And Rachel.
I couldn't recommend it because whilst what I thought it was going to be would be interesting, that isn't the film they've made. And it doesn't do anything interesting. I'm actually annoyed about it now. I was quite sanguine about it earlier, and now I'm annoyed. So 1.
Helen.
I'm gonna go straight down the middle and give it 2.5. I think there's a lot of very interesting things in it, and it does some things very well, but it's completely devoid of emotion and is quite bland. But it is ambitious, and I do admire them for having made it, and I just wish that it could have been a different film.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it 1 because there are films. There's like that Justin Timberlake film In Time, which is...
Hang on, what? There's a Justin Timberlake film?
There's lots.
There's
He's on the
another.
Social
Yeah.
Network. He's a proper actor
it's-
now.
I mean,
Is
it's-
he?
He's done loads of films.
I told you I haven't seen any
So it's-
films.
it's
This is
good
why
at-
you shouldn't write down any of my scores. I don't know anything.
So he's a good actor in the film. The premise of In Time was a good film, but it just didn't have... It just couldn't carry the weight of the idea, of the concept of the
Couldn't
story.
carry the weight of the trouser snake.
Of the trouser snake for longer than half an hour. But at least, I'm not going to go into the story of In Time now, but I thought the crux of the idea of In Time was a better story than this was, and ultimately it was a better film. I just don't think the idea or how they portrayed it carried that much weight. So I just can't think of many people I would say, yeah, go and watch it, because I don't think it's that they've done it in an interesting enough way to even suggest it to people.
Do you know, like, okay, maybe the reason why I've given it more than you guys is because ultimately I would. So if you meet somebody, and they think that I really like sci-fi movies because I love all that stuff that Tom Cruise does. You know, if they think that that's what, you know, if they think the Edge of Tomorrow and you know if they think that's the totality of sci-fi, which is actually genuinely what generally people think. When people go to see a sci-fi movie, they're expecting robots, they're expecting death, they're expecting large fighting spectacle. I would tell those people to go see this, knowing that they would hate it, but they'd be better humans afterwards.
Because they understand sci-fi better?
No, because they at least have had seen a scope. Like, I think actually the reason why I really recommend this is because if you did like sci-fi, then you're not being served by what is the mainstream. This is at least providing an alternative.
I did genuinely like a lot of the ideas that it has in it, and it is, you know, for a science fiction film, it kind of ticks all the science fiction boxes for me. It doesn't quite follow through on them.
That's what ideas. I mean. I really appreciate they tried the idea, but I just think there's a better film concept and film altogether out of it, and it's just not this. And without that whole kind of package, I think it does fall. There's no real. I wasn't engaged by anything. I wasn't engaged by the idea. I liked the idea, but it ultimately didn't work. But so I think that's
like, does that mean, because I'm fighting my corner here. Sorry, there's a reason. Does that mean you'd recommend like a Michael Bay Transformers awful movie over this? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if that's the spectrum, you would actually. Oh.
No, but I'd be able to.
Well, it depends what you want out of a film, doesn't it?
I'd be able to recommend that to more people. I'd be able to I'd know people who would get more out of that. I think I'd probably give Transformers 3 a 0. I've never seen it, but already I'd probably give it a 0. But I know more people. I think I know more people who would enjoy Transformers 3 than I know people who would, if I recommended this, would kind of say, dude, why?
You'd lose friends if you recommended this to people.
But you'd be left with better friends. That's it. You'd be left with the good ones. This is the way of separating
This is the acid test film, is it? Repeat viewing.
So you'd end up with better friends.
Yeah.
I see. So you're honing your friend group by this film. This is the sort of person we're dealing with here, Kobi.
So repeat viewing, Simon. How often will you watch this again?
I would watch it again.
Okay.
And I think I'd get something different out of it. I don't think I'm going to see it many times. It's never going to become a favourite, but I would watch it again. So I'd give it maybe a 4.
Rachel?
I would say it improves with seeing it again. It's worth seeing it twice.
Have you seen it twice?
No. I
but
did
her
watch,
other body did.
I did watch some of it this morning because it's a long time since we watched it, and I thought I could just do the reminder myself of like what happens and stuff. I didn't watch all of it anyway, but the point is, like, I got quite a lot out of watching it for a second time because I was like, oh, that's why.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you reckon there is nuances to it that could easily pass you by?
Well, yeah, and you can not quite understand the significance of some of the conversations that are being had because they're quite
abstract.
They're quite abstract conversations, really. Like when Jennifer Eller comes and visits her and talks to her, nothing is actually discussed in terms of this plan. It is all passive-aggressive. That's not quite the right. But she's talking to her about how her life is and how it's going and blah, blah. She's not saying, do you know what you should do? You should become a prototype for our company, for our product that you're selling. That's what you should do. This is not that sort of film. So it's much more realistic than that. So she just visits her and goes, hey, we haven't seen each other for a while. Da, da, da. It's all like completely all in the subtext. So that's why it's worth watching again. So if it's your kind of film, then watch it twice. That's what I would say. Therefore, 1.
Where does this leave us?
No,
Give us a number.
Okay, right, 3.
That's a convoluted 3.
Yeah.
How long?
I'm going to give it a 1. I mean, I can't see when I'd watch it again, but if it happened to be sort of on when I was in the room, I'd probably sit through and watch some of it again. But yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to see it again.
I'd watch it, maybe. I wouldn't say I'd never watch it again. Like, I can't. I'll never watch Transformers 1 and 2 again. To bring in Michael Bay, but I can't see when I'd watch it. Just not that interested. Small screen score.
Again, I'd give it a 4 because there's no reason to see this on the big
cinema,
screen at all.
right.
None.
No.
It's a domestic film for the domestic situation.
Do you think this was made for cinema? I haven't researched this, but was this made for the big screen?
I think it did.
It went into Sundance and everything. It went into
truth.
quite a few of the major, the major indie and film festivals. So it did get a release, and it was presented in a cinematic format.
I would have been disappointed.
It is a cinematic film rather than a TV film.
But
It's done so badly, really. If you're going to do a cinematic film, in order to justify the budget that requires, the plot has got to be, and the dialogue and the characterization has got to be there, and it's not there. So I can't really. This is very difficult to translate into a small screen score, but it's not really a small screen film. It should be a big screen film, and it should be a lot better. So, 2.
Yeah, do you know what? I might take mine down slightly. Can I go to 3?
Of course you can.
But it's because it's not a big movie. But if we're thinking of the fact that Black Mirror is not a movie,
but
is in a small screen, it looks better.
Yeah. Helen.
A 3. I mean, it kind of works watching it as a TV movie. It does kind of have that sort of TV movie feel, which again, like you've said, for its budget and I believe the director is quite famous. I think she did a film called Afterlife or something. So she's reasonably sort of on the radar, and the fact that it was obviously presented, I think it was Sundance, you kind of expect more from it. But it does work watching it kind of in the Netflix format on a laptop TV size.
I'm going to give it a 3, straight down the middle. No, yeah, it's for the TV, not for the cinema. I was just not that interested. Engagement score.
Well, again, because this is the thing, is ultimately it's a bit dull, okay? But it's a bit dull, and we've had a genuinely heated discussion about it. And I've obviously thought about this more than I realised. So maybe a 3.
But have we now kind of... Would you have given it a higher before we came in and had sort of this discussion?
No, I'd have probably given it lower, because it is so downbeat, because it is so soft. I'd have given it lower because it didn't hold my attention greatly. But it has left a mark on thinking. I've thought about it. So I have to give it that. Credit where credit's due, I guess.
Yeah,
We sound really reluctant.
I'm gonna have to smack this film down somehow, and it just like I have thought about it, but I wouldn't have watched it all the way through unless I was doing it for something. Do you know what I mean? So.
Would you say there's better films
and
doing
actually,
the same?
there are bits of it that I'm annoyed with how slow it is.
Yes.
So I'm going to give it 1.5. Sorry.
Is that you laying the smack down?
That's me. Well, that gives me an overall score for this film of 1.8, which is about how I feel about it, out of 5.
Yeah.
So I'm happy.
Helen.
I mean, I'm going to give it a 2.5. I was kind of intrigued to see how it did all kind of play out, but it is very slow, and I wasn't enthralled or particularly engaged throughout the whole thing. But there's some films that I've really not wanted to see the end of and had to kind of stick with it, and this I was vaguely interested in. But there's no moments in it that, even if you are kind of messing about on your phone or a bit distracted, that kind of jolt you back into it to kind of give you that bit of interest, or bits that you might have kind of switched off, and then something happens and you go, oh, how did they get there? Maybe I need to go back and see that. I think maybe I went to the toilet and didn't even pause it or something like that. So it's kind of that vibe. So straight down the middle.
I'm going to give it a 2 because I just kind of thought it was just kind of, really? Still going on? Okay, good.
It's not that long though.
Yeah, but that's it. It's just, I wasn't... With films I'm not engaged with, I'm on Wikipedia and I'm checking out maybe the actors and what's going on. But with this one, I just wasn't even that interested to find out what the backstory was behind it, I think. So overall score of 2.3. Well, not the worst. Nowhere near the best.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
2 and a bit stars.
2 and a bit stars.
I do genuinely want to see it given some money and made again.
Hollywood remake is calling.
Yeah.
Or maybe again that there are other films which do some of these things better, such as like for interesting exploration of memories, watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Ghost in the Shell instead. For a realistic view of the future, watch Children of Men instead. You know, I think it's
someone
good.
could make a film that kind of brought all three of those films together, it would be mega.
Yeah, like, and maybe this was trying and failed. I
prototype
guess,
for that film.
yeah.
Guys,
Believably bland.
Yeah, believably bland. Can we, sign off with a brief reminder to whoever's listening?
Oh, yes.
Who you are,
If
where
you want
to
a
find
very,
you.
very interesting view of the future, listen to our podcast, Level Up Human, which investigates where humans should go next in terms of evolution.
Yeah, we've got great guests. We've had Robin Ince. We've had who else lately? Danielle Ward.
Hugh Dennis.
Alice Roberts. Lots of other people. You know.
Marcus de Sautoy.
Yeah, if you want to hear what
forget him.
these people think we should do with our species.
Awesome. We'll link to your Twitter handles and everything and the website in the show notes. So, guys, if you're listening, please head over there if you want to know more about Level Up Human and everything that these guys are up to.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, guys.
Bye. Thanks to our awesome guests, Rachel and Simon. You can find them on the Level Up Human podcast. As always, you can find us at Flixwatcher Pod on Twitter. Come say hi. Agree, disagree. We'd love to hear from you. All the listings for this episode and all the episodes are on our website, flixwatcher.tv. Don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a lovely review. Thank you a million times to GL Productions for their superb editing skills, and also the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes.